Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Dakotah's Political Circle. And today, guys, I'm actually talking about something very, very important. So, if you guys know, this video we will be talking about Liberation Day. If you guys don't know what Liberation Day is, it's basically the day that Trump is officially putting reciprocal tariffs on every single trade partner that the U.S. has that is basically putting a tariff on us. And more or less, the reason behind this is because a lot of these countries are purposely putting tariffs on us, just to like save some money. And some of these tariffs are very, very unfair, and it makes a lot of sense why we are doing this. I mean, with the United States, and honestly, if we get all these tariffs off of us, we'd probably save trillions of dollars. So this is a massive thing. So I'm going to be talking about like what the certain countries we targeted were, how much the tariffs were for each country. I'll also kind of give you just kind of tell you guys like what will happen, like what we could see in the future, stuff like that. But anyway, this is basically called Liberation Day. Trump basically made it up like that because it is the day that he starts the reciprocal tariff because it saves us lots of money in the future because of how much a lot of countries have been ripping us off. But just to bring it up here's actually the countries. There's a lot of countries, by the way. I don't have to go through all of them, but just to show you a couple. So these are the actual reciprocal tariffs on each country. So if you look right here, these are the tariffs that are charged to the United States, which some of them are crazy. And then here's the ones that will be charging directly against them. Now, by the way, I just want to tell you, it's not exactly it's not like a match. I also want to remind everyone, it's not going to be a match reciprocal tariff. It's not going to be like everything's matched. It's going to be more or less us putting a bigger percentage than what we had in the past, but the minimum will be tariffing is 10% per country. So that's kind of how it works. That's why it took so long to implement, because we weren't going to match everyone. We just wanted to implement it to a certain degree to try to make people either lower their tariffs or basically bring them down to zero and take them completely away, which has actually already been working, which I'll also talk about that as well. But just to show you right here, here's some. Like if you look at China, 67% on us, and we're actually going to be doing 34, which is great. This is a crazy one. I'm kind of surprised we didn't do a little bit more. But Vietnam is doing 90% tariffs on us, which is insane. And you see us officially doing 46, which is great. And then you see countries like, this is also kind of something I wanted to bring up. So, this is a little bit off topic, but if you guys know about Taiwan, a lot of people were kind of like thinking if Taiwan's a country, if they're not a country, like it's the China situation basically. And it's kind of interesting to see this. So Trump actually put Taiwan in the country category instead of territory or anything like that or undisputed. So in a way, it's showing that they believe Taiwan is a country. Not like publicly saying it, but more or less like showing that we support Taiwan as an actual country. So that's kind of interesting to see. But then there's Thailand, 72%. They're charging us, and then we're going to be charging 36 now. Now, Cambodia, this is crazy. 97% will be charging 49. You can see the similarities between them all, and you can see like the 10% or minimums no matter what. If they have a 10% or a little bit lower, 10% is always going to be the minimum. And a lot of these smaller countries are the ones that have massive tariffs on us, which kind of makes sense, but also they shouldn't be doing that. Like Laos, 95% is crazy. But then you see some of these bigger countries. You'll like I showed you a second ago, like Vietnam. That's a big tariff for a country that's kind of like actually sizable. And then I'll also show some other countries here. You got if you look right here, like 99% is a crazy amount of tariffs. Like that's crazy. But yeah, most of these are smaller countries. When it gets to the bigger countries, like you'll see a little bit of a smaller shift. But there are some out there that are charging a lot on us specifically. But just looking here, like Syria, that's actually a big one. So Syria, 81%, and we're going to be charging 41. So yeah, some of these countries are actually overly charging us, and they're actually bigger countries. So it really makes sense why we're doing this, because some of these countries really get off on it no matter what. And towards the end here, you see some of these. All of these are basically 10%, except Reunion. I'm not sure what Reunion is, but yeah, Reunion's at the end there. But yeah, you saw some of the countries that are bigger. I know you guys are thinking like, where's Canada, Mexico, the countries like that. Just to bring it up with you guys, if I show you down here, because it actually came up a little bit ago, if I can find it. If it's not on here, I'll just tell you guys. But it should come up. If not, then I'll just just talk about it. But I do think I saw it recently. But if I don't see it, I'm just gonna tell you guys. But basically, yeah, it ain't showing up. But basically, what I was gonna say is actually here it is right here. So basically, the president of Mexico said she will not impose tariffs on the United States anymore. So that's the reason they weren't in the reciprocal tariffs. And then Canada also said the same thing. That's why they're also not in the reciprocal tariffs, which is also great. And then when it comes to there's some other countries in there. I can't remember exactly. I know there's the EU. Yeah, the EU is right here. I actually forgot to show the EU. So 39%. They aren't charging like a massive amount, but there are some in there that actually do show. Oh yeah, also Israel. Also wanted to talk about them as well. So Israel specifically, they actually also decided to take away all their tariffs. So they will also be taking away their tariffs. They actually charge 33%, which isn't huge. But I'm glad they're going to be taking away their tariffs now. It just shows there's going to be like a big effect on a lot of countries. So they're going to be just taking away it, and it's going to save us a lot of money in the long run. It's going to have a lot of people not take advantage of us anymore. I'm just looking to see if I missed any here. At least Australia isn't too bad, 10%. But it is crazy that some of these countries charge so much on us, and they're literally bigger countries. Like, it's just crazy to see. Like the Vietnam one literally is just insane to me. Like, that's actually crazy. A country like Vietnam is charging 90% on us. Like, that makes no sense. But I did want to talk to you guys about that. But yeah, you see right here where Trump basically talked about it. This is one of the most important days in American history. It's our declaration of economic independence. For years, hardworking American citizens were forced to sit out on the sidelines, but now it's our time to prosper. And if you see right there, he signed it. That's really awesome to see. So it's really awesome to see all of these tariffs going in place. This shows all the tariffs specifically, but I already showed you guys all of them. But basically, it's more or less going into effect. So it's more or less going into effect tomorrow. Which on this video, it's going to be it's already happened. But to tell you guys basically what's basically going to happen specifically, like what's actually going to happen when this actually happens. So what's going to happen, which I want to actually explain it to you guys, actually what actually will happen, not just like say, oh, it's all going to be good and stuff. So with how tariffs work, if you guys don't know, tariffs obviously are on actual consumer goods. I mean, like actual and everything in the U.S. So they tariff what's in their country, what's in your own country. Now, a lot of people think that sounds weird, but the reason being is it keeps a lot of products. It makes people want to buy other products that aren't from those countries. That's why you tariff your own citizens. Now, it is controversial, obviously. It makes sense why it's controversial. But in the long run, even though it is a tariff and it gets bigger and bigger over time, it does make you more independent, and it helps you out in the long run. And also with these reciprocal tariffs, the reason I like them more specifically is because certain countries tariff us a lot. They tariff us a bunch, and it really, really sucks. And with those countries, some of them are literally our allies, and they are tariffing us massively and just, taking advantage of us. So I think us, putting it back towards them is a good thing, and them, possibly taking off the actual tariffs would be a very, very big thing. And to also show you right here, hold on a second, let me get Grok up. Okay, so this is what I wanted to show you guys. I wanted to bring it up. So just to show you, basically what's the negative impacts, what's the good impacts on these tariffs, everything like that. So potential negative impacts, what probably would go up. So consumer goods like electronics, smartphones, laptops, especially from China specifically because of the 34% tariff. So for example, a $500 smartphone would cost 670. So that's kind of massive. That's a massive one. Then clothing and textile, like from Cambodia, for example, Vietnam, which literally charges us 90%, by the way, are major apparel exporters, which a $20 shirt would cost $29.30, which isn't too bad. That's not as bad as, China's, where it comes from $500 to $670. Then you got auto parts, like the 25% tariff on foreign-made cars, vehicles from China or Canada, which, Canada already said they're going to be putting 0% tariffs, could jump in price. Like a $30,000 car could increase by $7,500, which is not too massive considering buying a car. So then food and agriculture, seasonal goods, avocados from Mexico, which, doesn't really matter now because it doesn't matter because it's going to be zero because Mexico already said. Then European cheeses or wines could see a bottle of $20 go to $24, which isn't too bad either. I think the only massive one right here is the electronics one. Steel and aluminum, energy costs, specifically. Now this is Canada, so I don't want to talk too much about that. And then studies like the budget of Yale suggests 1.7 to 2% overall price increases, equating to $2,700 to $3,400 per household annually. Lower income spending more of the income might lose $1,000 to $1,300 disproportionately. And then retaliatory tariffs from countries like China or Canada, which Canada won't, could shrink export markets indirectly, raising domestic prices. And then potential positive impacts. So here's the positive ones. Trade negotiation leverage. This is also a big thing. Country reliant on U.S. markets might reduce their tariffs to avoid reciprocal duties. For instance, India has already cut tariffs. Oh yeah, also India. I forgot to mention that. They already cut tariffs as well, saving U.S. exporters an estimated $23 billion annually in duties. By the way, this actually helps us a lot. If the EU 20% tariff or Japan follows suit, U.S. firms could save billions more. This is the reason why I said trillions earlier, because if a lot of these countries do it, we'll save possibly $1 trillion or more per year. And then Trump's team claims nations have approached them to negotiate lowering tariffs, which is really great. And then revenue generation, a 10% baseline on all imports plus higher reciprocal tariffs could raise $400 billion annually in GDP. If used to offset deficits or fund tax cuts, no tax on tips, this could save the U.S. economy from borrowing costs, which is really great. Industry production tariffs could shield U.S. steel, auto manufacturing, and manufacturing sectors, potentially attracting $2 trillion in domestic investment. The jobs in these sectors might grow. The 2009 tire tariff saved 1,200 jobs. Costs and savings from countries caving. If major trends like China, which I don't see China really caring too much, or the EU lower barriers, well, I could see China maybe lower a little bit, but I don't see them lowering that much. U.S. exporters could save 50 to 100 billion annually. Now, I could see the EU actually end up lowering them, but I'm not too sure about China. But China's retaliation cost U.S. farmers $27 billion in 2018. Avoiding such losses could stabilize prices for soy, pork, and cotton. The White House predicts a $1.2 trillion trade deficit reduction if partners align, and potentially lower import reliance in boosting domestic production, which that's why I mentioned $1 trillion. And then balancing the equation, short-term prices for implemented goods, electronics, cars, food will likely rise immediately, hitting consumers and import-dependent businesses. Retaliation could cost export jobs. But then the long-term gain, if countries cave, tariff reduction could save U.S. exporters billions, increase federal revenue, and spur domestic growth. The economy might shrink 0.3 to 0.6 long-term, but strategic gains could offset this. What's next? Expect negotiations before or after April 9th, which I kind of expect that as well. I guess they start on the 9th. Okay, I apologize earlier. I thought they start tomorrow, but they kick in on the 9th. So if successful, prices might stabilize as foreign tariffs drop. If not, trade wars could escalate. So it really depends on the country. Some might, have trade wars, which honestly, I think the only countries that might do a trade war, maybe the EU, maybe China. China's probably going to do trade wars. I don't think too many countries will. I think most countries are going to cave because it's going to hurt them more in the long run. It really just depends on that. But yeah, that's basically what will happen with these tariffs. Specifically, it's a good mix of good and bad. I know a lot of people hate on it and say it's going to really cost U.S. consumers, but like I showed you, the biggest impact probably electronics, for the most part, clothing, auto parts, actual food. I don't think it's going to hurt too much. I think the only massive one here is literally electronics, because most of it's made in China, which honestly, if you give China tariffs and most people, if you start bringing more investment to the U.S., you actually, in the long run, would pay less because more companies would make American made electronics than Chinese made electronics. Now, technically, the price would probably go a little bit less, but not too much less, because making products in the U.S. is a little bit more expensive than making it in China. But in the long run, it does help us out, and it would lower costs. So there is a good mix of good and bad. Short term, not a great thing. Long term, it can be a great thing as well. So you never know. But anyway, guys, that's what I want to talk to you about today. I just want to tell you about the tariffs, the actual reciprocal tariffs. I think it's a really great thing in the long term. You never know what could actually end up happening. It could be a really, really great thing. It could be, bad. Like it really, really depends on how other countries take it. If, like, for example, if you go back in history, I can't remember the exact president, but I know there was one president, I think it was Hoover, that did do tariffs, and it literally tanked the economy significantly and just absolutely destroyed the economy. I think it put it in a Great Depression. I can't remember exactly. But Hoover did absolutely horrible with that. And then there was another president that did tariffs, and it really, really helped the economy. It did great. It was an amazing thing. So it really depends on how you go about it. And in today's world, since a lot of people are relying on the U.S. and they do put a lot of tariffs on us, I think in the long run, it won't hurt us too bad. I think it will actually help us. And if we do help, do more stuff domestically and stop relying on other countries like China, I do think in the long run this could be a good thing, and also save money when a lot of countries start putting like 0% tariffs on us, because they can't like handle the price point of these types of tariffs. But anyway, guys, let me know in the comments how you feel about it. I know tariffs are an interesting thing. In a way, in the past, it's probably been more of a Democrat policy than a Republican policy, at least in years past. Or it could have been a mixture policy. Hoover was a Republican, and then you just never know. It's like it's a mixed bag. Some Republicans hate tariffs. Some Republicans think they're a really, really good thing. So let me know in the comments how you feel about it. In my opinion, I think tariffs in general, depending on what it's actually for, are a good thing. But like, for example, if it's on China, not China, if it's on a country that, like China, for example, it's just going to lead to trade wars. And unless it's like them lowering it at least a tiny bit, it's not really worth it. But when it comes to all these countries just ripping us off, I think it's worth it no matter what, because in the long run, it'll help us out. But anyway, guys, let me know in the comments how you feel about that. I just wanted to talk to you guys about that in this video, because it was a massive thing to talk about, because it was something that was, scheduled for a very, very long time. But anyway, guys, let me know in the comments how you feel about that, and I will definitely catch you guys in the next video. It'll probably be out maybe 3 or 4 days. I'm really not too sure when the next video will be out. I'm just kind of assuming. But anyway, guys, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one.